Hello and welcome to Rockies Recap. My name is Steven, right here with the co-host Tom. Tom, how are you doing? And I am so sorry about your Chicago White Sox. The first team to lose 100 games this year, but you know what? What what else can you say right now in such a dismal season?
Uh, it was to be expected, to be honest with you, regardless of who the manager was. It's unfortunate that they're on pace to have the all-time worst record. They've already set the record for fewest games to reach 100 losses. No, fewest games to reach 100 losses, and it looks like they're going to probably break the record, but who knows? It's unfortunate, but what you gonna do? I
Yeah.
wish there were, like I said in the pre-show meeting, I wish there was a way you can force an owner to sell the
Mm,
team because this is malfeasance and malpractice and just complete disrespect to the game and its fans.
right. Yeah. And at least us Rockies fans can say, at least we're not the White Sox. Things could be worse, but
True.
yeah, but yeah, it was a rough series for the Rockies, especially today's game. But honestly, like I just told Tom, games one and game two weren't bad. The Rockies, they stayed competitive. Game one, and Tom points out, that the Rockies were 1 for 8 with runners in scoring position, and that's not going to cut it. It was a low scoring game. Cal Freeland actually wasn't that bad. I think was it Stanton had that home run in game one, and I feel like whenever he plays the Rockies. I remember when he used to play for Miami. Whenever you come to Coors Field, you would always have to watch out for those 550-foot bombs that hit the concourse at Coors Field. But yeah, game one wasn't bad, but it's just the Rockies' offense coming into this series, and we talked about in the last recap that their offense was struggling quite a bit, and we saw that in game one. Again, not a lot of stuff to show for the Rockies there. And then game two, much better game. The Rockies got on top of Will Warren, I think that's his name, who is a rookie pitcher for the Yankees. And by the way, in game one, Stanton and Judge both hit a home run, and they actually had a pretty good series in game one and game three against the Rockies. But yeah, Warren was the starting pitcher for the Yankees, and coming to the game, he had like an 8 something ERA. The Rockies, they were able to jump right on to him early on. Nolan Jones had a huge RBI double. Tovar, he got on base. I think Ryan Mack got an RBI single, and then Jay Cave. Of course, we know about Jay Cave and his 4 for 5 game with a huge home run that kind of blew the game out of the water for the Rockies, if you want to call it that. I mean, as a Rockies fan, there's no really blowouts because we've seen way too many times to count where the Rockies have given up the lead. But yeah, Toglia and Cabe both hit home runs, I believe, in this series. So not a lot of power, but again, you're playing the Yankees, who are arguably the best team in the American League, and by record, they're the first place team in the AL East. And not to mention, Drew Romo got his first career extra base hit in game two, which almost at like the angle of the TV where I was looking at almost looked like it was going to be a home run because of the short porch in right field. And I was just praying that was going to stay up just a little bit longer. But I think it landed on the track and it went off the wall. So for a second, I thought he had his first home run. And how about that? To hit your first home run in Yankee Stadium, but unfortunately that didn't happen. But he was able to get his first career extra base hit there. We saw Luis Peralta, the brother of Freddie Peralta, and I think that's a cool fact. I mean, his brother is a notable starting pitcher for the Brewers, and that guy has really helped their rotation in years past and in recent years, and he's done pretty well against the Rockies, and very good pedigree. And Luis Peralta, he was acquired in the Jalen Beeks trade from the Pittsburgh Pirates, and we talked about right around when the trade was happening or when it happened of how solid and how good Luis Peralta was with Altoona. When he was with the Pirates organization, and like how his WHIP was, I believe, sub 1, I believe, and his ERA was really, really, really solid. And he had good strikeout numbers, very nasty stuff, and he pitched great. Pitched an inning and 2/3, had a couple strikeouts, including a strikeout of Juan Soto, and then it was great to see. And then, I think Anthony Molina, he closed out the game there. And then, of course, Bradley Blaylock, he got the start in game two. He was nails again. I mean, in the last, his 3 starts with the Rockies ever since the call up. He's been good. He's given the Rockies almost quality starts every single outing, maybe by one inning. I think he's been able to pitch at least 5 innings every single start, which is much needed for the Rockies and where the position where they're at. They need a guy like that. So yeah, it was a good game. And Angels Chivii, I think that's how you pronounce his name. Again, we're over here at Rockies now. We're not the greatest at pronouncing names, so if you're watching, Angel, we apologize, but Angel Shavili, how you pronounce his name, he got his first career win and save, I believe, early last week against the Nationals, and he pitched well in Game 2. And then yesterday, Molina closed out the game, and then today, the Rockies had a good start in the top of the first. They were able to get I think a walk. They were able to work up the pitch count for Marcus Stroman, but then and they did score a run. They did score a run on a double play ball that was overturned to a ground out single by Brenton Doyle. But then the Yankees, they got to Austin Gomber, score some runs, and the rest is history. The bullpen didn't do a great job. Jeff Criswell gave up 3 home runs. I think was it Stanton? No, Judge had a 2-hit game today. Stanton, I think, had another home run, and the Yankees scored a total of 10 runs against our Rockies. A positive for today's game. Drew Romo, he got his first RBI. That was a single. That was nice to see. So again, there's nothing really you can say about this Rockies series. We knew that this was going to be a tough one. We were hoping that the Rockies would get at least one, and they got one. And so we'll take it. But still, you kind of want to get those wins when you can. Where I feel like Game 1 was definitely winnable. It was a very low scoring game, as you can see all the way through. It just the Rockies, they really couldn't get any offense together, and so it just it was somewhat of a bummer. So. The Rockies, they're going to be heading home to play the Marlins. So hopefully they kind of get the Marlins at Coors Field. But like Tom pointed out, the Rockies were swept by Miami when they were down in Florida earlier in this season. So you're crossing your fingers that doesn't happen at Coors Field. I mean, the Marlins are slightly worse than the Rockies, but not by much. So, I mean, both are rebuilding teams, retooling teams. So really just trying to build your confidence over the last really month of the year as we're closing out the last week of August. School starts, and we're just kind of, heading into football season. We're kind of rooting for the Rockies to finish well. And it was one of those series. It's just like, man, it stinks, but this is the rebuild, and the Yankees, well, they're the Yankees, and, they're going to be a playoff team, no doubt. So it was nice to get at least one in this series.
We've had several games to recent memory where the pitching has been quite outstanding, or I would say outstanding to be extent, and the offense has just been stifled by whether it's better or just or level-headed pitching from the opponent. I don't know. It's the Yankees. I don't know what to say. I mean, Game 3, Judge had, I think it was 4 home runs in the series, and the pitch that I commented this on X. The pitch that he threw to Judge, that Judge hit for a home run, was not a bad pitch. He got it well inside, hard enough to any normal batter would either hit it off the hands or would probably swing and miss. But Judge having the quick hands that he has, just got the barrel to it and crushed it because he's a very big, strong man. Again, like you mentioned, we left 8 runners on base in Game 1. It was a very winnable game. Kyle Freeland, once again, was outstanding. I also commented this on X. Ever since his just dismal opening day, he has been very good at turning things around. And like I've always said, he gave the Rockies a chance to win. The offense just didn't come through. Game 2 was much needed because, like I said, if the White Sox can win a game this season against the Yankees, then the Rockies can too, by process of elimination based on the record. And then, again, I think today's game, the Yankees just flexed their might. It's just like the other day when Shohei made history, becoming a member of the 40-40 club. Judge just continues to amaze with 2 home runs, but not to mention Soto himself, and then Stanton went back to back to back. And to your point about Stanton, he's still a solid hitter. given his age and the fact that he struggled with injuries since coming to the Bronx. It's a very formidable lineup, but this one um, member of this White Sox podcast I subscribe to, he described this Yankees lineup as studs and duds. You've got studs like Soto and Judge, and you could say possibly Stanton, and a bunch of duds. And I'm sorry, DJ LeMahieu, that includes you. I'm rooting for the guy to have somewhat of a good last 2 years of that contract. Good for you. You earned that contract based on 19 and 20, but yeah, hopefully he can turn things around for himself. But again, it's just the Yankees flexing their might. They are, you could say, now the new favorites in the American League. The Dodgers are the favorite in the National League, but that doesn't mean that those two are going to meet in the World Series. So for the Rockies, it was definitely a learning curve. I would say there's, as you point out, positives. Freeland continues to be solid. Hank Blaylock, sorry. I'm so sorry. Bradley Blaylock, I'm so sorry. He was very good. Like I said, Peralta coming over, he had a good outing, and just unfortunate that Gomber was solid up until, of course, things just a couple mistakes just turned. So, and the Yankees, when you give extra outs to really good teams, to take advantage, and that's exactly what the Yankees did. All in all, it was the winning one, losing two was what was expected. I'm just glad we won a game against this solid team.
Yeah. Yeah, and Lux points out Zach Veen in the comments. And let's quickly talk about him, and then we'll get to our final topic of the evening. Will Zach Veen be called up next year, or be called up, or probably next year? I'm glad you brought Zach Veen up, Lux, because Zach Veen just the other day was promoted from Double A to Triple A. Just came off the IL again, and we talked about him, I think, privately right after our last recap. And I don't know, maybe we did talk about him in our last show. Um, but it's just that Zach Veen, he's still young, but we still are somewhat concerned with the injuries that he has come with the baggage that he has. And don't get me wrong, he's a good player. It's just that you still have to be concerned with the injuries. And I'm not necessarily sure if he had injuries in high school because, again, he was drafted out of high school, not college. And high school players usually, not all the time, sometimes you get quick high school players, but usually high school players take a lot more time to develop, right? They're younger. Veen was drafted when he was 18, just turned 18 when he was drafted by the Rockies in 2020. And Romo, he was drafted, I believe, the next Rockies pick. I think it was later in the first round. If not, it was later first round. If not, it was the early second round, but I'm pretty sure it was first round. But yeah, I think, Zach, for him, just stay healthy. This guy still is the Rockies' number 4 prospect for a reason. And we see that he has power. He might not have a whole lot of power, but I think he could definitely be a solid hitter, good speed, as we know, because every single time Zach Veen's on the base path, he's always a stolen base threat, kind of like Bretton Doyle. However, Zach Veen is probably a little bit more a guy that you'll steal a lot more bags. I think this is going to be Zach Veen. If he can stay healthy, he's probably going to steal anywhere from 30 to 40 bags. I mean, if you look at his minor league stats, I want to say 1 year, I think it was either with Fresno or Spokane. I want to say he stole like something like 50 or 60 bags in 1 year, which is pretty insane, especially in the minor leagues. But again, you're going against catchers who are maybe they don't have the strongest arm quite yet, and so they're still building that, and so it's easier to run in the minor leagues. But we still kind of both have concerns about Zach Veen. We know how we've had some people comment on Instagram when we agree with you guys that the Rockies, they do have a plethora of outfielders. They have a lot. And so the question is, where are they going to play? What's going to happen? And it's possible the Rockies have a couple of tough decisions coming up where they might have to trade a guy or have to release a guy. And since we're kind of talking about that, it kind of reminds me a little bit of the NFL season, right? I mean, we finished off the preseason, right? The NFL preseason is closing out, right? And usually before the season, you have all these cuts, all these releasing players. And some of these guys are really good. I mean, the Broncos, for instance, they're going to have to get rid of really good guys that won't be on the roster. And so it's kind of that same thing with the Rockies. They might have to get rid of or trade a really good prospect in order to open up a spot on the later on in the future for the Rockies because again, there's a lot of outfielders. But and we put up on our story the other day that the Rockies they need to move on from Chris Bryant and Charlie Blackmon this offseason going into next year because if they intend on having Zach Veen and Fernandez be a part of that outfield, because by the way, those two guys are outfielders, and the Rockies already have Jordan Beck, Britton Doyle, Nolan Jones. They have to make moves because you just can't have that much of a roster crunch, and it's already getting crunched a little bit. So the Rockies they have some tough decisions, but um, it's Veen is definitely going back to Veen. He's going to be somebody to watch, and I think it was the right move. I mean, again, you don't want to keep this guy in Double A forever. Again, it's natural because you just drafted 21 players in the draft, and you move up, different players and move things along. And I think it's all right. And not to mention his stats whenever Zach Veen was healthy this year, Zach Veen was actually good. It's just the problem for him has been staying healthy. So I like it. I'm excited. Will he debut this year? Probably not. I just feel like the Rockies wanted to, develop him a little bit further, have him do what, Drew Romo did last year, stay, the rest of the year in Albuquerque, and then have him start in Albuquerque next year, unless if he just goes on a torrid run in spring training and he earns a right field spot, which it's a tall order. I mean, he's still young. I mean, I believe, still only like 23, no, 21, 22 years old. So, I mean, he's, right around the age of Jordan Beck a little bit, but still, you don't want to rush his development. But, and I will say this, Lux, Lux says it would kill me if Charlie signs with another team. I don't think you'll have to worry about that, Lux, because I don't think a team would pick up Charlie's Blackman's contract or with his age and his decline. Unfortunately, I mean, he's hitting right around 247, I think. So I'd be very shocked if Charlie signs with another team. But yeah, Zach Veen, he's going to be fun. But yeah, I mean, today he hit his first AAA home run, so that was good to see. So we'll have to keep an eye on Zach Veen. So yeah, I mean, Tom, like, what do you think? I mean, I think it was coming anyway. I mean, Zach Veen, it's not a huge surprise that he got called up to the AAA. I mean, I think it was just in some ways it was about time because you just can't have the guy in AA for that long, and then he was doing pretty well. It's just like I said, he was just getting injured quite a bit down in Hartford.
Well, given that going into the season, this would be his third straight year breaking camp and going to Hartford, there were a lot of unanswered questions about him. You point out the most obvious: can he stay? Can he play a full season? And if he does, or I think whether if he does or if he doesn't, what is his production going to be like? And I think given the fact that he's not eligible for the Rule 5 draft, I think coming up this year, but given the fact that he is in Albuquerque, I do believe he is going to get that move. I was going to make the comment that he would take Jay Cave's spot, but I double checked Jay Cave's contract status. He still has one more year of arbitration for next year. Then he is a free agent after 2025. So 2026 is his free agent year when he accrues 6 years of service time, assuming he does play the full season in the major leagues, which I think he'll do. So, and to address the Charlie Blackmon, I'm sorry, guys. I think they're already having those conversations. He will not return next year. He came back on a 1-year, $13 million deal. I believe this is the last year we will see Charlie Blackmon in the Rockies uniform, and he's not going to. I'm sorry. I love Chuck. He's one of my favorite Rocky. He's my favorite Rocky of the past almost decade, but he's not going to have a market. I'm sorry. He's 38 years old. He's accomplished so many fantastic things in his career, including a batting title. And I think this record still stands. He has the most RBIs hit from the leadoff spot, and I believe it was 101 or 102 in 2017. I have to double check.
Yeah.
But again, he has been just one fantastic player. I love his attitude. I love I've always loved the mountain man fisherman look that he always crazy because he loves to fish and hunt. I think, yeah, but he loves but so I think if that indeed does happen, which I believe it will happen, and I believe we're going to give Charlie his final send off, I do believe his 40-man roster spot will be given to Zach Veen, and Zach Veen, I believe, will break camp with Albuquerque next year. And as I commented on our last episode, you'll have Beck, Doyle, and Jones. Again, not going with Jones's health. That will be your outfield, and Zach Veen will get regular everyday at bats in Albuquerque, and you will make, of course, a decision based on how he does, how things improve at the major league level, how things go out at the major league level. And yes, Lux, Zach Veen does have big shoes to fill considering his draft status pedigree coming to this organization. But you could say Beck and Jones had the same thing. Right now, the corner outfield spots I would say are big question marks, or two of the biggest question marks on this team right now because you have Doyle, but who's going to be playing next to him?
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
He can't patrol all of the outfield by himself.
Yeah. Well, okay, so Lux also points out earlier, excuse me, in the comments that somebody picked up, obviously it was the Cardinals that picked up Brandon Crawford. I thought that was weird for the Cardinals to pick up Brandon Crawford. It's just like you already have a shortstop in Mason Wynn. I don't know. Like again, this is just me, but the Cardinals are so mid. I really don't get what they're doing. I really don't get why they signed Brandon Crawford. I mean, and then they just released him this week, right? And so it really didn't make sense at all. And he just really hasn't had any value whatsoever for that Cardinals team. The Cardinals are mid as heck, in my opinion, which I've talked about privately to Tom and other people. But yeah, again, this is not a Cardinals podcast. Obviously, thank the Lord for that. But yeah, it's like Lex. Unfortunately, as as much as we love Charlie and a bunch of, we're big Charlie fanatics. Unfortunately, again, he will not get picked up. If he does, I'd be very shocked, and it wouldn't be the smartest move for that organization. Again, Charlie is going to be turning 39 next year, and Brandon Crawford, again, you look at his stats, he hasn't been that great this year. Yeah, he might be an okay defender, but still, his days are over. And the purpose of the Giants getting rid of Crawford was to get younger. And look at the Giants. I mean, they're in the wild card hunt right now, and it was move for the better, right? And they're opening up a bunch of roster spots for them. Tyler Fitzgerald, man, I mean, he's been good against the Rockies, and so it's really all about getting younger. But yeah, so let me see here. So the Rockies, again, we have a 4-game series against the Marlins coming up. I believe it's gonna be a 3-game series if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 3 games. So again, fingers crossed that the Rockies don't get swept by the Marlins because they were swept by Miami down in Florida earlier this year. And I don't have the details in front of me. Again, you can check that out on MLB Game Day app or just on MLB.com. Check that out. Oh, it's a 4-game series. Sorry about that, folks. It's a 4-game series instead of a 3-game. It's 4 games. So 4 games at Coors Field. And so, yeah, again, hopefully the Rockies don't, because again, this could be a series where I mean, if the Rockies, let's just say, if they were to win 3 or 4 games in this series, right? They win the series. There's a possibility, there's a chance the Rockies could avoid 100 losses. I mean, it's going to be close. I know I was looking at the numbers today, and it's kind of close to where were last year. So I don't know. It's fingers crossed. I mean, again, like I said, there's not really a big difference between a 98, 99 loss team to a 101 loss team. So at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter, but it would still be kind of nice if we avoid 100 losses. So that would be some sort of small improvement. And I guess to finish off the night, it was kind of at least for me, somewhat of a shocking move that just happened the other day. The Seattle Mariners fired um, their former manager, Scott Service. And the Mariners are still in the playoff hunt. However, they did lose the division lead to the Houston Astros, Trashtos, I should say. So that begs the question, should the Rockies look at the Mariners and say, okay, we need to do the same? Um, you know, we were talking before we started, and I don't think he should get. I mean, I don't think he's the worst manager the Rockies have ever had. I think he's actually been one of the best managers, and if you look at the numbers, he's actually been one of the best managers in terms of winning. In Rockies history in terms of win percentage and all that. But of course, those 2 years were from 2017, 2018, and he was able to help the Rockies get into the playoffs. But he hasn't had a lot of success since those first 2 years. And so you look at Bud Black and say, okay, is he the problem in Denver? I don't think he is. I don't think, there are other problems. And I think we all know what they are. But I think there is a question to ask and say to yourself, well, maybe, the Rockies, maybe they should move on to a younger manager or another guy to where they can kind of build off of. The Rockies, I'm sure they liked, Walt Weiss, who, by the way, I don't think was fired. He just stepped down as Rockies manager. I thought Walt Weiss did a heck of a job as Rockies manager. I believe he managed for the Rockies from 2013 to 2016. I think Jim Tracy left after 2012, if I'm not mistaken. I thought Walt Weiss did an excellent job, especially bringing in the younger guys during those times of you know um, Trevor Story, Nolan Arenado, Charlie Blackmon, and of course he was playing the younger kids, and that's what the Rockets are doing now. However, they did let go of Walt Weiss and they brought in Bud Black, which again at the time was a great hiring, and I still think it's a great hiring, back for its time. And so it kind of begs the question, will Bud Black get fired? I don't think he will. If Bud Black does go, it's going to be more of a mutual agreement. Tom pointed out before we started, it's going to be a mutual agreement for him to step down as the Rockies manager. But there's a question: will he return? Will he come back? Lux does make a point that Bud's not the whole problem, but he does make questionable moves at times, and Charlie being the manager, we'll see. I mean, I don't know if I see Charlie being a manager, but it's again, I like Buddy, but I want to say not too long ago, I read or maybe even listened to a podcast somewhere about Bud Black when he was with the San Diego Padres and how he was fired in San Diego. And I think one of the reported issues with Bud Black being in San Diego, again, I'm not 100%, sure on this because it could be false reporting. I don't know, but according to this source, they said that one of the reasons why Bud Black was fired was because he did not play the younger players in San Diego. He preferred veterans over the younger players, and then he got fired, and they went to Andy Green. So again, that's just something I've heard. I'm not sure if that's the exact reason. It could have been other reasons. Maybe the Padres just wanted to move on. Maybe it wasn't necessarily all Bud Black's fault, because you do look at the Padres from the 2014, 2015 years where they went big in the free agency, and they got, I think, James Shields. He came over there, and then they got I think Norris, their catcher. They got Will Middlebrooks. They got a bunch of young players and offered free agency. And I remember a lot of people were like, "Oh, the Padres are going to be a wild card team. They're going to be a playoff team." They fell flat on their face, and I think they were fifth in the division. So it just like can we blame Bud Black for all the Rockies' problems? I don't think you can. Again, he's not the perfect manager, but I think he's done a good job for the Rockies. But since the Rockies are on a rebuild, I don't think it would hurt for the Rockies to go a little bit of a younger option as a manager, or go with Hensley Mullins or Warren Schaefer. But you do also look at Bud Black, who's, again, helped the Rockies get to the playoffs in 17 and 18 with the pitching staff, because in order for the Rockies to get back to the playoffs, they need to have good pitching. And Bud Black is a very, very good pitching manager, probably one of the best pitching managers in baseball. And so, there's a debate where he could stay. It's just that, will he get fired? No. Will he stay? Maybe. Will he go? Maybe. So that's really where we're at right now. So it's just something to watch. And by the way, his contract ends at the end of this season, so that'll be something to watch.
Yeah, given the fact that his contract ends, I think they will choose not to bring him back. I think is the problem. I thought I'll rephrase my words from our pre-show meeting. I think they will just choose, because given where they are, I think they need their next manager should be, or the manager in 2025 should be the person that will guide them through the end of this rebuild and into when they become contenders, hopefully in 2 years. Who is going to be that manager to push them to the next level and try and get them back to the playoffs? That's what I think they should do. And Bud, given his age, I think he's even commented he doesn't plan on managing for much longer over the past several years. And I don't blame him. The guy, I mean, again, I'll reiterate the rhetoric. Manager hours are long. It's grueling. It's the traveling. It's the media obligations. It takes a toll on you. And he's been doing it for a long time. And yeah, just like anybody, the people who are realists and looking at the reality, it's not all the losing is not his fault. There's a famous saying, if you want to blame someone for pin most of the losing on, it's the general manager, because he's the one who puts the asses in uniform. I'm quoting a famous broadcaster with my words. Honestly, and again, Bud is one of the best managers. I would say he and Clint Hurdle are the two best managers in franchise history. I think he deservedly so will receive a lot of praise from me, and I would hope that other Rockies fans outside of you and I will give him the same praise given what he's committed to this team. Because when given a contending worthy team, he's brought us to the playoffs or within shouting distance of the playoffs. And honestly, I think Scott Service, just to remind everybody who doesn't know, he does have a bit of Rockies ties. Jerry DiPoto, the current Mariners general manager, did play with Scott Service. Scott played, I'm just double checking here. In 2000, he played 33 games with our Rockies before being DFA'd and picked up by the San Francisco Giants for the rest of the season. And another thing to point out, Scott Service, 9 years as the Mariners manager. And again, just keep one more thing. He's Mariners are the only team that he has been the manager of at the MLB level. Excluding this season, so of the 8 seasons prior to this season, he has 5 seasons. No, 1, 2, 3, 4. And again, excluding 2020, he has 5 seasons with 85 wins or more. The last 3 seasons, he's had 90, and 88 wins. That's worthy of a playoff berth, but unfortunately, because of the American League being so strong, they were only playoff teams in one of those seasons. It was 2022. Yes, correct. Yeah, correct. Mm-hmm. So again, I think Scott Service, again, it all depends. Does he want to take a year? Guys who get fired from managers, they take a year off, kind of relax, reset, think about what they want to do. But if he's continuing going straight back into managing, I think he should be a serious candidate for the Rockies to consider as the next manager. But yeah, I believe that Bud Black, they will, sadly, just like Charlie Blackmon, they will choose not to bring him back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's another guy, Gabe Kapler. He was a former Rocky.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. He was.
Oh God, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure. Like, he was fired for the Giants, and I don't know.
I've got a comment about what I think. I think he's going to become the Marlins' next manager.
Yeah, I mean, Skip Schumacher, again, I want to say we talked about it a while ago, but like Skip Schumacher is reportedly might be a very well favorite for the White Sox new manager. And I think Grady Sizemore has done a decent job so far, especially with Grifol getting fired from the White Sox. But again, it's an interim manager. It doesn't mean he's going to get the job, but at least in Rockies history, a lot of our interim guys have become the managers. Like, Jim Tracy became the interim manager in 2009, right after Clint Hurdle was fired, and then Walt Weiss, he was kind of the same thing. Right after Jim Tracy was fired, Walt Weiss took his place. So, but yeah, I mean, Gabe Kapler, maybe, and then I think. Somebody else pointed out Joe Madden. Joe Madden's done. I think his baseball days are over. He's getting again, kind of like Bud Black. He's getting up there in age. He's spent so many years in baseball, of course, with the Tampa Bay Rays, managing over there, and then of course, with the Cubs, and then a little bit with the Angels. It's still weird that he was manager of the Angels.
He's older than Bud Black too.
Yeah, and so there's no way he's coming back. Bud Black, we think he's old. Well, Joe Madden's even older. So
how much? Yeah. I think he's 6 or I have to double check. I think he's 6, 7, or maybe even 8 years older than Bud Black.
Yeah. But it's just very interesting. I'm like, oh yeah, Gabe Kapler. He was a former Rocky. I want to say in the early 2000s.
I'll double check for you.
And I think it wasn't very long, but I think he actually spent time. And of course, Joe Girardi. He's another former Rocky. He was the part of the team with the Blake Street Bombers. Of course, he wasn't a bomber, but he was the Rockies starting catcher during those years. And it's still crazy that, he was, the Rockies big catcher for them. And I always thought, well, what if he ever became a Rockies manager? But then again, he's been out of baseball for a while. His last job, I believe, was with the Phillies, right? Yeah. I think it was
I'm sorry, who?
Oh, Joe Girardi.
Oh yeah. He was in 2022. Well, excuse me, 21 and 22, they fired him after I believe it was 30 some odd games. And of course, Rob Thompson, former longtime Yankee coach, took over and is now still the manager. And because, he led them to that big turnaround season where they made it all the way to the World Series.
Yeah.
And Gabe Kapler, let me give you the rundown here. In 2002, he played 40 games for the Rockies, 2003, 39 until we released him, and he was picked up by Boston. And then, of course, he was a everyday player for the 2004 championship team in Boston.
Yeah,
he played 136 games for him that year, and it's kind of crazy. He has a special place kind of in White Sox fans' trivia. Because he was, again, I'm not sure how many people are familiar with Mark Burley's perfect game, the amazing catch by Dwayne Wise. You can YouTube it. Gabe Kapler was the one who hit the ball that to which Dwayne Wise made an amazing catch to save perfection.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
But I think real quick on Gabe Kapler, I think he is currently the Marlins assistant general manager. I keep hearing words out of Miami that Skip Schumacher is going to be let go, of course. Because I think with the new general manager Peter Bendix, there's been, I don't know, I'm not sure if I have the appropriate way to call it is a coup, but I think he and Gabe Kapler have developed a relationship to the point where I think Gabe Kapler is kind of working his way into being the next Marlins manager. So that's what I think will happen. So I think Gabe Kapler is not even going to hit the free agent manager market.
Yeah, so it's gonna be fun off season again. You know, the off season is hard to believe is not that far away, Tom. I mean, we're only about a month away from starting to get ready for our off season stuff, which is crazy because I just feel like we just did our season preseason predictions and our preseason talk about the Rockies. And here we are with almost a month left of the year, but yeah, a lot of crazy stuff will be happening again. A lot of Rockies topics to watch out for. Will the Black return? What will happen with Charlie Blackmon, Chris Bryant? How are the Rockies going to continue that rebuild? And I will say this as we wrap up the show tonight: the last couple weeks, or even in the last couple of series, I've been a lot more happier as a Rockies fan, more content. And it's not like listen, I hate losing, but it's like I'm happy they're finally letting the younger kids play, and they're finally, even though they're not saying it out loud, they're finally admitting that, hey, we need to play the younger kids. They are the priority, not the older players. And that's why they moved on from Elias Diaz. And I know he was a fan favorite, but at some point sometimes you have to get rid of fan favorites to help your ball club. And I know you don't get instant results sometimes, especially from the younger prospects, but that's why you have to develop them and let them play every day, because if they don't play, they won't play. They won't play well, and you're in danger of mismanaging the player, and hurting them, and hurting their talent levels and that sort of thing. And so it's very important that the Rockies play the young players, which they have been doing over the last couple of series at least, and ever since really the All-Star break. And it's nice to see that as a Rockies fan, because we need to get younger as a team, and it's going to help this Rockies team get back to where we want to be. And that's obviously Rocktober. We want to get back there as soon as possible. But at the same time, though, you don't want to rush it to where you mismanage your prospects, that sort of thing. But it's also important that you just can't be complacent about certain things, especially losing. You can't, lose it. You can't end the season and say, well, we tried. No, you have to get better in every single area you can. And I'm talking every single area. And so my hope is that the Rockies, they've somewhat accepted that, and that they're on their way to getting back to where they want to be. And we've seen that. So again, it's nice to see. And I know some people are like, well, they played Jay Cave, the last two games, but Jay Cave, he's really, he's more of a guy that needs to be, and I mean, Blackmon didn't play in game two. And so the Rockies, they needed a veteran like Jake Cave and Ryan McMahon to help out that younger lineup. I mean, Drew Romo played, played 2 out of 3 in New York, and they could have had Stalling start all 3 games. Right. So, again, it's much needed. And again, it's the right decision, and rebuilds suck. And I know as baseball fans, we want to see the Rockies be good, but just got to hang on a little bit longer. All right. So, the season's almost done. So, Rockies fans, the pain is almost over. So, say goodbye to your 2024 Colorado Rockies, even though it's been a disaster of a year in some ways. But again, it's promising to see a lot of these younger prospects play and get their playing time, and they need more of it. And I'm excited for what 2025 and 2026 hold for our Colorado Rockies. So hang in there, and we'll be all right. That will do it for tonight's Rockies recap. Thank you so much for listening and staying tuned to our Rockies recaps. Kind of not really an announcement, but a thank you to everyone who has been involved with this. Just the other day, I think yesterday, we hit 1,000 followers on our Threads page. So thank you very, very much. On behalf of myself and Tom, we would like to thank you for your support and your just encouragement and your love for our Rockies pages. And I think we're now over 4,400. We're almost at 4,500 followers on Instagram. We're climbing up there. We're excited for the future of Rockies now, and of course, we're always ready to help you guys out and kind of give you some Rockies content. Of course, we love the Rockies. We're Rockies fans, and that's why we're doing this. We're doing this all together, and in some ways, it's not just me and Tom. It's everyone. We're all in this together. We're all helping our fandom, I guess, become a better place, a better Rockies community. And that's what Rockies Now is all about. So, again, thank you all so much for your support and your love for Rockies Now. We really appreciate it. Yeah, the next time we'll talk to you guys will probably be later this upcoming week. Again, we got the Marlins series at Coors Field, 4-game series, and then after that, we'll have to take a look at what the remaining schedule will be, because again, we're wrapping up the final month of the season. We're getting close, and so we're prepping for the off season, and it's going to be an interesting one for not only for the Rockies but for Major League Baseball. Again, on behalf of myself and Tom, we would like to thank you for watching tonight's show. And as always, go Rockies.